question is, are you ready?
What do you guys want to talk about?
Let me talk to you. Yeah.
Throwdown Nation, we are live. It is a Tuesday night. We are rolling on Instagram, on YouTube, on Twitter/X, on Facebook, and on Twitch. It is episode 126 of the Throwdown with Matt. And tonight we are throwing down with author and pro wrestling fan Yan Kalandarov. What?
Oh, no, go ahead.
His novel Stolen Ring Time artfully meshes the world of professional wrestling and science fiction. How you doing tonight, Yan?
Great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I've been definitely been looking forward to this. And, as we go along, if y'all have any questions or comments, just throw them in the chat and we'll either handle them as we go or do a little Q&A at the end. So we'll go ahead and get started with the first and most obvious question. And that is, with the mixture of pro wrestling and science fiction in your novel, it's obvious that you are a wrestling fan. How long have you been a fan?
Since about like 2004, 2005. I've watched Raw, SmackDown. Been to a couple of indie shows, but actually I've also done some pro wrestling training. Not a lot. I did about maybe 2 months, maybe 8-10 sessions at the Creative Pro Wrestler School here on Long Island.
Oh yeah.
I didn't get far, obviously, but I did a couple of months, and some of the things that are depicted in this book are from those training sessions. Some very basic things. Got you.
So, I mean, obviously, at some point, you did have some aspirations to wrestle. Did you, before starting to train, did you have any kind of athletic background?
I played like regular sports, basketball, soccer, things like that in high school, but nothing like high level. But then I did a couple of classes at the school, and I don't think I was terrible, but I just didn't have like the time commitment. It was 3-4 classes a week. I could only do a class a week at the time, so. I didn't want to drag it out and waste the instructor's time, because there's people there that were really serious about it.
Right. So you said you've been a fan since roughly 2004, 2005. That span of time. What would you say is your earliest wrestling related memory?
The earliest, I think it's Chris Benoit and Eddie Guerrero hugging each other at WrestleMania 20. I think that really stuck with me.
Yeah.
And I watched a little bit before then. My mom wasn't too crazy about wrestling, so I could, watch it where I could. But that kind of stuck with me, and I was like, all right, so this is what it's all about. And then I was kind of hooked from there.
Gotcha. Yeah. Unfortunately, with what happened, Chris Benoit's name is like anathema to a lot of people. But I mean, I'll be the first to admit, I can separate the man's body of work from how things ended up with him, and I still think he's one of the best to ever do it.
Yes, just
Yeah.
body of work wise, yes, I agree.
Yeah,
Everything
yeah.
else, obviously.
I mean, yeah, terrible human being, amazing wrestler.
Yeah.
I mean, so, but so where did you actually get the idea for Stolen Ring Time?
Well, I started writing. I written a couple of things before this that nobody ever saw. But when I was doing like research for writing things, I said, okay, most of the things mentioned like write what you know, and I did have some knowledge. Obviously, like I'm not some kind of like wrestling savant, but I did have some knowledge of how wrestling works, and so I decided, okay, I like that. I like science fiction, so I started outlining the story, and it all kind of came together. And once I had like a beginning, middle, and end, I said, okay, now I can sit down. I can fill in the blanks, and then 6 drafts later, the book is done.
Gotcha. Well, I really enjoyed reading it, and I loved some of the various character names that were scattered throughout the book as basically sort of little shout outs, like the gym coach being Mr. Ziegler.
Yeah.
And one of the villainous characters being Okada.
Yes.
And I do have a question. The instructor guy, I believe his name was Robert Crude. Was that a shout out to Robert Roode?
Yes, there was.
I thought so.
Yeah.
I was curious about that.
I didn't want to like hit you over the head with it, but like if you're not a wrestling fan, it won't really mean anything to you. But if you are a wrestling fan, you're reading like, oh, okay, I see what he did there.
Yeah, that was what like I said, I was assuming that was the case, but I'm glad to hear that confirmed.
Yes.
And your choice of people to shout out in the book was really top notch. I mean, all 3 of those guys are amazing talents.
Yes, and I've seen all 3 of them live at one point or another. I saw Robert Roode years ago when TNA came to Long Island, and I had really good seats. So I saw him before he was world champion, but like when he was still with Beer Money. So that was really good. Really made an impression on me. So I had to put a little shout out to him in there.
Oh, for sure, for sure. So away from writing and away from wrestling and all of that, what are some of your other hobbies and interests?
I like to play basketball. Much to my wife's, she's not too crazy, but I have to go play basketball at least 2-3 times a month. Just kind of get out of my system.
Yeah.
This is kind of a forced hobby for my best friend, but now I do a lot of running because I'm in my 30s. I want to stay good shape, so I do 2-3 runs a year. A little 10K, 5K here and there.
Gotcha. So we're mostly a wrestling related show, but we dabble a little bit in pop culture, and I'm always looking for recommendations. So are you by any chance watching or listening to anything cool right now?
Not wrestling related.
It doesn't have to be, no.
Oh, most of my podcasts are either basketball or wrestling, just because I can tune in and out even if I'm not paying full attention.
Right.
I listen to the Jim Cornette show a lot. I did think about having a character after him, but I feel like he's so polarizing that I didn't want to really include him in the book.
Right. Yeah, I don't blame you there. I mean, yeah, he's an acquired taste for sure, and yeah.
I mean, I agree with most of his takes, but
oh yeah,
just for the book, I want it to be like people that were more relatable to the book.
Gotcha. So, outside of wrestling, what person inspires you the most, and why?
Outside of wrestling,
yeah,
I guess again, I watch a lot of basketball, so I do like Kobe Bryant. Rest in peace, obviously. But anytime I see like a Kobe video, I think it's very inspiring.
Gotcha. So, so what does your family think about all of this? What do they think about the fact that you're pursuing the dream of becoming a full-time novelist?
Well, actually, nobody really knew about it until I kind of published the book, and then once it came out, and there was like little ads on like Instagram and Facebook. Everybody, my immediate family wasn't too surprised because I was always writing things here and there, but everyone was surprised to see like the finished product because, you know, and as we spoke about off air, about like writing and publishing. Everybody does it here and there, but like finishing a book is a really like people don't expect it from you unless you're always talking about it, and I wasn't. But then it came out, and everybody's been very supportive.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's definitely publishing is definitely a different world now because with Amazon and everything else, you've got so much control and you've actually got the ability to put your stuff out in the wild, pretty much at your whim, and which is both good and bad in some ways. Um, but because there are people that are publishing stuff that honestly have no business publishing anything.
No, yeah, unfortunately, you're right. So it's so easy. It's not. I want to say it's easy, but once you figure it out, like you can say, oh, okay, so this is the formula, and I can do it. So like people put in a lot of hard work, and some of it gets drowned out by people that just know how to publish in mass. And then if you publish one little book here and there, you might get lost in the shuffle.
Absolutely. So you had mentioned that you're based out of Long Island, New York. What is your favorite thing about Long Island?
Well, so initially I'm from Queens, where it's a little bit more congested. I moved out here to Long Island because I like the space. I like the parks. I like there's maybe a mile away, 2 miles away, there's always like a big park to go to, somewhere to go for for a walk, for a run. And there's just more space in general, but the city is still, a 20-30 minute train ride away. So if you want to do, a Broadway show, or anytime there's a big like wrestling show at MSG, I can hop on the train and I'm there, and I can just come right home right after.
Gotcha. So yeah, you're out there with MJF and all of
Yeah,
them.
MJF's town is, I don't know, like 20 minutes away.
Plainview or whatever.
Yeah. My wife actually does work in Plainview once in a while, so like I know the area.
Nice. So as a wrestling fan, what is your biggest wrestling pet peeve?
My biggest wrestling pet peeve?
Yeah.
I can't explain why. It really bothers me when the wrestlers leave through the cage door during a cage match.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It just really bothers me. Maybe it's because like the first match I saw was like Eddie Guerrero versus JBL, where he jumped off the cage even though he could have just climbed over, and that kind of stuck with me. But every time I see a wrestler climb out of the door, I'm like, oh well, this is a cop out. Just climb over the top.
Gotcha. So something that we do in these that I had neglected to mention before we went live is we do something called the speed round game. And what that is periodically I'll stop, I'll say speed round, and I'll name a name, and you just tell me the first things that pop into your head.
Okay.
So speed round. Kazuchika Okada.
Excellent wrestler in Japan. Not too impressed with him here in the US.
Yeah. I feel like Okada has been somewhat watered down in the AEW system.
Yes, because I remember watching the matches that he had with Kenny and New Japan, because those, like, even if you didn't order the pay-per-view, you track those matches down, you watch those. And I was expecting the same level, even though that was years ago. Maybe he slowed down, maybe he got injured. I didn't follow that closely. But once he got here, I was like, he's just another guy on the roster. It feels like.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It really is. I mean, it feels like really the only thing he's got going for him now is saying the word bitch.
Yeah.
I mean,
unfortunately, yeah, you're right.
Yep. So, And this is again from a fan's perspective. What do you feel is more important, that a talent be great in the ring or great on the mic?
Oh, I think it depends on what company. I think if you're in AEW, you have to be able to go in the ring, and I guess like on the indies also because you don't do that much mic work on the indies. Um, but I think in the WWE, you have to be able to go on the mic because
Yeah,
all the top stars are, top, at the top of their game on the mic. If you're like a mid-level talker, then you're probably not going to get too many talking segments.
got you. So we'll do another speed round name here, and there's a little bit of a pattern to this, but
Okay.
Nick Nemeth.
Nick Nemeth. Oh, I just always think underrated.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I've really enjoyed how he has reinvented himself in TNA, though.
Yes.
Kind of getting away from the whole Ziggler thing, and sort of kind of becoming his own guy. But yeah, he's I think he's still operating at a very high level.
Yes. My only regret is that I think he should have done this like 10 years ago. He should have left WWE 10 years ago. But I can't really blame him because I know those WWE paychecks are like no other. So
Oh yeah,
I don't blame
yeah,
him for staying. But from like a selfish like fan point of view, I wish he left to TNA years ago and did more of this kind of work back then.
right, right. So in terms of your particular writing style, who or what would you say are some of your influences? I mean, I know everybody wants to obviously have their own distinct voice, but everybody as a writer has some influences. Who would you say are some of yours?
All right. So I read a lot of Stephen King. Like I've been reading him for years, and also Joe Hill, who just happens to be his son, but also an
Yeah.
excellent writer. So I read the two of them. And when I was in high school, I read Stephen King's book on writing, and there he says something about how you have to do a certain amount of like I think he does 2,000 maybe 2,500 words a day. So I took after that. I did try doing 2,500 words a day, but that wasn't like it just wasn't happening for me. I would just get stuck. So I started at 500, and like these days I'm at 1,000 words a day. So every Monday through Friday, before I do anything, I write 1,000 words and edit the previous day's 1,000 words, and that way everything is kind of structured for me.
Very cool. Very cool. So, do you have an all-time favorite match as a fan? A match that you just find yourself still gravitating back to?
All-time favorite match? There's so many. Obviously, like the most obvious answer would be like Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Bret Hart, but in WrestleMania 13. I like that match, but I think my personal favorite is I'm gonna say Kurt Angle and again Chris Benoit Royal Rumble 2003. I think that's
Hmm.
if I have to like pick one match to show somebody who's not a wrestling fan, like look, this is what it's all about. I would probably show that match.
Yeah, yeah. You know, the three-way that Benoit had with Hunter and Shawn at Mania 20 is that's on my match Mount Rushmore.
Yeah.
I just think that was a beautifully executed match. Um, and another favorite of mine, and I've mentioned this on a lot of these, is from back in 1989 on a WCW Clash of the Champions. There was an I Quit match between Ric Flair and Terry Funk. That is a masterclass in storytelling. So if you haven't seen that match, it's worth your time. You'll thank me later.
I haven't seen it. I don't watch too much stuff from the 80s, but since you recommended it, I'll give it a shot. I'll watch.
Yeah, it's definitely worth your time. I mean, and it's Ric Flair at his prime. So
Yeah, because in my mind, I have like Evolution Ric Flair and
yeah,
forward,
uh,
which I know isn't like a fair representation of him.
No, it's not. I mean, Flair Flair in the '80s was he was the man. I mean, so on a related question, we found out about your favorite match. Do you have an all-time favorite promo as a fan?
All-time favorite promo. Um, the first one that comes to mind, I think, is the pipe bomb promo from CM Punk. Was that
Hmm.
2011? I like that one, and then the John Cena promo, I think, is like um a close second for me. The one where he tells Vince McMahon about how everybody turned their back on him, but then he stepped up with the whole ruthless aggression thing. I think that's a good promo too.
Gotcha. So, in your opinion, who are the best male and female wrestlers in the world right now?
Um, I think all around male wrestler has to be Cody. I think he has the whole package, the wrestling, the talking, and then when he comes on TV, like you have to watch. He's always doing something important.
Yeah.
And female, I think it's Rhea Ripley. I think she has the whole thing figured out also. And I have yet to see like her have a bad match, whether it's one of those tiny girls or if it's one of the girls that's like her size or bigger. She knows how to work.
Right, right. I've mentioned this also recently. Something that I'm excited to see now that she is in the WWE system. I am dying to see Rhea Ripley and Jordan Grace do a
Yes,
program together. I think those two could tear the house down.
definitely, definitely. Yeah, I'm glad Jordan Grace came over. I saw her stuff in TNA, but obviously it's going to be a much bigger audience in the WWE.
Right, right. So, if you were a wrestler,
Mhm.
and this can be present day or past, who would be a dream opponent for you? Who would you love to share a ring with?
I think just wrestling wise, probably Chris Jericho. And I mean, I know he's still going strong in his 50s, but probably like 2007 to 2012, Chris Jericho, like when he made his comeback after the hiatus.
Yeah. Speed round.
Okay.
Drew McIntyre.
Oh, I think like a best all around performer that they have right now. Obviously, like outside, let's say Cody, but I think he does a lot with whatever they give him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, he's a reliable worker, and he's also kind of inspiring because when he got cut years ago, he didn't just go and pout. He basically went out to the indies, worked on his craft, and basically showed them that ultimately they'd made a mistake letting him go.
Worked on his craft
So
and worked on his body because he came back. Um, my wife is actually a big Drew McIntyre fan, and whenever he comes out, she's like, "Now that's a good looking man." But I pull up a picture. I'm like, yeah, he was always a good looking man, but like, he used to be a skinny for wrestling wise, a skinny guy, and then he came back, just looks like a monster.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, it's just it's cool to see situations like that where sometimes something that just seems like such a major career setback ends up being the best thing that could have happened to you. So
Yeah, because I think if he stayed, he probably just would have just done nothing of importance and then been released later anyway, and probably not have had the same opportunities that he did outside of the WWE.
gotcha. So like I said, reading Stolen Ring Time. The end definitely leaves room for a sequel. Is anything like that in the works right now?
Yes, yes, it is. I'm in the early stages. Draft one. I'm maybe 35-40% through it. But there's a beginning, middle, and end for a draft one for part two. So I'm working on it, and I'll probably have it released before the end of the year if all goes well.
Nice, nice. Definitely looking forward to it. You know, there's an old saying, never meet your heroes because they're bound to let you down in some way. Have you had the chance to meet any of your wrestling heroes? And if so, how was the experience?
I haven't met too many, but I did. My brother and I would go to these shows on Long Island, and I did meet Robert Roode, which
Hmm.
I don't blame him. He was kind of exhausted after a big TNA show, but I did meet him. He gave me an autograph. He gave me a fist bump. I mean, I don't know what else. What else can you ask for?
Right.
I met him, and I think I met Bubba Ray Dudley that day. And my brother, who's more persistent, he got in the ring with I think AJ Styles was their champion at the time, so he got in the ring with AJ Styles, took a picture, and yeah, I think that's the only time that I actually met wrestlers.
Gotcha. Gotcha. I've actually heard that Bubba Ray Dudley is a good guy in person.
Yeah, he was he was very I want to say polite. He did what he was supposed to do, give me the autograph. Again, a fist bump. I really don't. I know these guys are tired after shows, and I'm really not big into trying to get a moment with them. Just
Right.
sign the autograph. Give me 30 seconds every time, and that's enough for me.
Absolutely. So, what is and again, this is from the perspective of a fan, and also, since you've had some limited wrestling training, what is your favorite move? What is a move you just really always enjoy seeing done well?
Um, this is gonna be maybe a little bit weird. I think the hip toss is a very underrated move because it takes two people working together, and you have to completely trust the guy that's kind of delivering it to you. So I never figured out how to land right. I would always land either on my right or my left, which is super painful. So, but every time I see a proper hip toss and I see the guy selling it, I think that's my favorite move to see done, properly.
Gotcha. Speed round. Hangman Adam Page.
Oof. I think overused these days.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, I feel like they're just he's one of those guys I think that kind of maybe needs to go away for a little while and come back with a totally different gimmick.
I agree. I mean, he's. I feel like within AEW, he is oversaturated.
Yeah. Yes, in AEW in general, I feel like they have the same core group of guys that they're always using, and they're always doing similar things. He's always hanging around the main event,
Right.
main event scene, and maybe if he went off to the side and did a program that was a little more interesting, maybe that would be a benefit to him.
Gotcha. So, what is your take on the role that social media is playing as a promotional tool, both in wrestling, specifically indie wrestling, and also in publishing?
Oh, I think it's great for indie wrestling. I think it's a good way for the boys and girls to connect with the fans and kind of get your name out there. I think especially if you have personality, you get your name out there quicker if you know how to use social media. And in publishing, it's just also another tool to promote your work. But again, it's like a double-edged sword because I can promote my work and so can everybody else. So if I don't stand out, then again I get lost in the shuffle.
Right. Speed round. Jacob Fatu.
Oh, I think a long time coming because I've been hearing about him for years. I saw him at when he was in MLW a couple times,
Mm-hmm.
and I was always I always thought it's just never gonna happen. There's too many Samoans in the WWE, and they're just never gonna bring this guy up. And then he came up and just took the whole wrestling world by storm.
Yeah. Yeah. He is somebody that I really honestly feel like the sky is the limit for him. I mean, he really checks all the boxes.
Yes, yes, he can talk, he can wrestle, and I think the biggest thing about him is that he's believable. Like
Yeah.
you believe that he can actually beat somebody up.
Yeah. Yep. So, knowing everything that you know at this point in your life, if you could give any advice to your younger self, what would it be?
I would tell myself to take less breaks with writing, like because I would always start something and then be like, you know what, you get like a little writer's block and just put it down for months, sometimes a year, and then come back to it and then put it down again. I would just say, just be more consistent, keep writing, and I would probably be further along in the process now.
Gotcha. So, something that we've done in all of these is we've we've got a section where the previous guest gets to pose a question for the next guest.
Okay.
So my previous guest was an Atlanta-based wrestler by the name of Spectre, and the question that he posed is, and I'm adapting it somewhat,
Uh-huh.
but the question that he asked is, what, if you were an active wrestler,
Mhm.
what would be the venue that you would most love to work a show at?
The venue that I would most like to work a show at.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think many of your listeners will know this, but realistically speaking, I would want to work probably the Elks Lodge in Queens, which is like, if you're going to an independent show in New York, there's a good chance you're going to end up in the Elks Lodge in Queens. Because I've seen half of the AEW roster now, before they became, actual like big stars, all of them were there at some point. I saw Samoa Joe, I saw there between his TNA and his WWE stint. I saw Jungle Boy there when he looked like just a child. He was really young. And I saw half the Bullet Club there at some point, because everybody had to come through there. So if I had to be an independent wrestler and wrestle somewhere, I would want to start there.
Got you. So, since this is part of a series, do you have a question that you would like to pose for the next guest?
Yes. Since
Okay.
I know that you mostly interview, or you interview a lot of wrestlers,
Right.
I would want to ask, what move do you never want to even attempt to do because you think it's just too dangerous and not worth the risk?
That's actually a really good question. How would you answer that? Is there a move that gives you the shivers?
Um, I think the shooting star press does give me like an uneasy feeling, just because I think once you do that first rotation, like Brock Lesnar and at WrestleMania 19, where he just, he's a super athlete, and even he screwed that up. So I think it's just anybody, if he can mess it up, anybody can mess it up. So that's just one move that I would stay away from.
Yeah. There's a move that you don't see it much anymore these days, which is probably a good thing. During the Attitude Era, it was like almost you saw it almost every match. But a move that I always get the willies when I see it being set up for is the Vertebreaker.
Oh, yes.
Because that move, it just looks like there are so many ways that could go catastrophically wrong, and
Yes.
and end up paralyzing or killing somebody.
I mean, it's in the name. Something could
Yeah,
definitely go wrong.
yeah. I mean, it's the last the last Vertebreaker I saw was actually, I can't remember who he did it to, but Cody Rhodes did a Vertebreaker on a WWE show a while back, and haven't seen it since. But I mean, Cody is such a good and skilled worker. I really didn't have any problem with him doing it. But I mean, you would really have to have a lot of trust with the person you were working with to do a Vertebreaker. I mean,
Yeah. I think it's one of those moves that if done very rarely and like for a proper occasion, like maybe to write somebody off TV, okay, fine. But I think if you're doing it just to do it, just to show people you can do it, I don't think it's worth it.
Right. I agree. So, we're getting toward the end of things now. So, do you have any, I guess, any social media or anything at all that you'd like to give some hype to?
Yeah, well, I have my Instagram where you could find me, where we're connected on Yan Kalandarov books, and then I'm
Mhm.
also on TikTok, just also Yan Kalandarov author. You just type in Yan Kalandarov, you'll find me there, and I have like little excerpts from my book there. So like if you're not sure about reading it, you can kind of get a little snippet and see like, okay, this is I think would be something that I'd be into.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, I got it and read it in preparation for this, and I can definitely vouch it's a good story, and it's unique because when I started reading it, I was like, how is he going to blend pro wrestling and science fiction?
Right.
And you really managed to pull it off, and
Oh, thank you.
and that was it was definitely an entertaining read.
Good.
So
Yeah, I didn't want to make anything that was like too like maybe kayfabe, and then nothing that's too like super science fiction to where it gets boring. So
mhm.
I actually my editor is a middle school teacher, and I had him proofread it for me, and he said, hey, like I didn't get bored, and like there's always like something happening. There's never like 3 pages describing a tree or anything like that, because I think in a book about pro wrestling and science fiction, you have to have a good balance of story and action, and that's what I tried to do.
Absolutely. So let's see here. Speed round.
Okay.
Interestingly enough, Robert Roode.
I think the word that comes to mind is like just a right place, a wrong time. I think
Yeah.
he would have been great in the WWE if he came again like 10 years earlier. Like if you could just trade him
Hmm.
for Dolph Ziggler, maybe like 2011, 2012, I think both of them would just be better off accomplishment and like career wise.
Absolutely. But I will say from what I'm seeing and from what I'm hearing, though, he's doing a great job now as a producer behind the scenes.
I'm sure.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, as far as what we've got coming up here on the Throwdown, tomorrow, Wednesday the 11th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, I've got episode 127 with a wrestler based out of Camden, New Jersey by the name of Houdini. And then Friday the 13th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, I've got episode 128 with an Orlando, Florida-based pro wrestler who also happens to be the drummer for the rock band Set It Off, Max Danziger. And then next Tuesday, the 17th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, I've got episode 129 with pro wrestler, card shark, and magician, the wild card Ace Diamond. And I'm actually booked up well into the month of July, so there's a lot of announcements coming. So definitely keep an eye on my social media. And before we wrap this up, do you have any final words that you'd like to say to the audience, Jan?
I'd love for the wrestling fans and anybody that listens to your podcast to check out my book, give it a read, and if you do like it, please leave a review on Amazon, because that's the best way for me to get this book out there and get noticed.
Absolutely. So anyway, for those of you that have been watching this live, thank you. For those of you that'll be seeing this on replays and such, thank you for that. If you like what we've got going here, do the old like, comment, share, and subscribe. And until tomorrow night, be good to each other, love each other, and let's keep throwing down.